I am Jason Abraham, the Shadow Teacher 33. And there's a certain juncture in my spiritual awakening when I started to delve deep in the study of conspiracy. And in this world, I noticed there are many people who always making predictions of what was going to happen. And the mind of a conspiracy researcher is somewhat paranoid, uh, as you are always attributing extra meaning onto everything. You're always reading in, looking at connecting the dots, looking at deciphering the code, breaking the code of the matrix and the language of the matrix. And what I noticed with me is, as I got into this, I started to develop an unhealthy paranoia about my being. And reading this book, Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeland, which is about manifestation, essentially, which is about building a life of ease, a life to where you get what you want, or at least your spirit gets what it's highest in alignment with. And one of the things that I just read is not to attribute excessive importance on anything, and also not to project meaning into everything, which is the opposite, essentially, of the mind of a conspiracy researcher. Now, I do find value, again, in the conspiracy research. I still do it. I still make videos on my BitChute channel every now and then regarding this sort of thing. But ultimately, what I find is when we are always attributing excessive meaning, we're looking into what's going on out there. What are the powers that be doing? It puts us in this state of fear. We start to vibrate in the state of fear, which goes with the paranoia. I had a former friend who was very much into this and was very much into psychic readings, into predictions, always sending me predictions, always looking to know with certainty what the future held. And what I find as I move on, like, there is a part of us that does want to know what's coming. We want to know so that we can be safe, we can be prepared, we can do what's in our highest good for our values. This is a very normal, healthy mode of survival. But when we believe we're going to know everything, when we believe that we're capable of knowing everything, that we can predict the future, or that someone else can, some of these pop astrologers predict the future, then we can fall into this void of paranoia and delusion. Again, this is sort of the realm of where the ego wants to control everything, wants to know the future so it can feel like it's in control. But this is an illusion. This very much is an illusion. Now, I believe astrology is very much legitimate, but when someone is telling you exactly how something is going to be, you need to question it. There's always a question that needs to be asked, which is the age-old question: is it true? Is it true? And this brings us to another question, which is, if these prophecies are true, if people can predict the future, then does free will actually exist? Do you have a choice? Or is everything set in stone? Are you simply here to live out a destiny, live out a greater story that you actually have no control over, that you may believe you have control over, but you don't actually have control over? And I am a believer in free will. I believe the choices that we make in the present shape what we create in the future. And sometimes, just as we see in the Star Wars movies, like when we are coming from a place of fear, when we come from a place of control, then we actually create and manifest that which we don't want. We feed that which we don't want. And the Bible warns of false prophets. And I got to a point, again, in my conspiracy research where I was just consuming everything and then watching all these people making these predictions. And eventually, well, let me say this first. The truthers talk about what's called the goldfish effect. The goldfish effect is this idea that goldfish have a very short memory. And when the normies are gaslit by the corporate media, by the news, when they're told lies by mainstream media, they forget the lies and they go on and they keep listening to the mainstream news. They keep giving authority to this source that keeps lying to them and is never held accountable. Well, I say that same effect can be applied to people on the other side of the alternative media who constantly make predictions that don't come true. And when someone is always making predictions and telling you what your future is, telling you how things should be, and it doesn't happen that way, then I start to lose a little bit of, or I should say, that particular source loses credibility with me. They lose credence. And when someone loses credence, I have to ask, why am I continuing to watch this? Why am I continuing to give my energy and attention and invest in this when I'm seeing a consistent pattern of someone telling me how things are, making predictions, and them not being so? Now, what I found, the true astrology can talk of themes. It can talk of shifts of how the stars reflect themes on our planet and themes that are going on within us depending on our day and time that we were born. And when you have a genuine astrologer, I have a couple of mentors who are the real deal, then you can have great insight into your nature, into your tendencies. But it doesn't mean things are set in stone. That's how they explained it to me. You know what your tendencies are based off of how you came into this world and what you brought with you. But part of our work here is working through soul karma, and we have to do that out of our free will. So what I was saying in the beginning of this video, we place too much importance and too much meaning on everything. We have to walk the line of, we have to be aware if we're creating the state of paranoia, if we have to be aware of when our ego is simply wanting to grasp tightly the reins of control, the delusion of control, and we have to be able to let go. Because one way or another, we're going to be forced to let go, whether by our own choosing or by forces greater than our individual ego. And we have to choose where we want to place our attention. We want to keep placing our attention in sources that are only creating more paranoia, that consistently do not deliver on their promises, or do we want to invest in something more substantial, something that builds us up and puts us more in alignment with our soul calling? We got to have the discernment to know the difference. So that being said, I'm going to end this transmission. Be strong, be well. I'll see you on the other side.